Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Hey guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. Don't know his middle name, but it might be Swagger John. We don't even know. He's got so much pizzazz in those 2 feet of his. John, how are you doing today, my brother?
Man, I'm doing absolutely amazing. I'm making things happen. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, my man. So, John and I have met recently, become really good friends, quick friends. He's got an interesting role. I was thinking today, I think you're the first one I've ever interviewed that does what you do, which is an interesting game of tightrope walking. But tell the listeners what you do. And what I like to do with my guests is I like to let them start the story where they want to, and then we go from there.
Sure. So my name is John Okocha. I'm the Vice President of Acquisitions for Elevate Commercial Investment Group. And also have my own fund as well, ATM fund that we just launched 2 months ago. So what I do with Elevate is I actually help out on what I used to do, I usually help out on the acquisition side, but now I'm helping more out on the capital raising side. So now I'm raising capital for multiple deals. We're working on about 3 or 4 deals right now. Really excited about that, and happy to jump in and let you guys know more about what I do.
Yeah, I love that. And so, which is probably a really important part of real estate, meaning the money to actually take the deal down. But that's not how you got started. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Did you go to college, or, where did you learn this stuff from?
Yeah, it all started when I was 17. So a really good friend of mine, he gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Actually, what he did is I met him at a after school program called Future Business Leaders of America. And I remember talking to him, and I noticed him, like the way he was moving and different things that he talked about. And I spoke with him afterwards, and I told him, like, hey, what have you been up to? You mentioned different things about business. And he said, hey, there's a book that I really think you should read. It's called Rich Dad Poor Dad. So later I went to the library, got the book, and I finished the book like within 3 days. And we've been best friends ever since. And I've never been the same ever since. Maybe about a month after I read the book, I went to my first real estate seminar, which is where I met my first millionaire. She was actually on The Apprentice with Donald Trump.
Okay.
And when I met her, she told the story of her going from living in RV parks to owning RV parks, and she was worth about, I think, around $2 million at the time. And when I saw that, I knew that it was possible to become a millionaire. And, I never looked back. I got a mentor who helped me on the wholesale side. I wholesaled a couple of properties. Then I went to college and kind of forgot about it a little bit. But when I was in college, I actually got an internship in financial advising. I've always been interested in wealth management. So I got an internship in financial advising, got the Series 7, Series 66, insurance license, all of that. Then I realized I want to focus on real estate. So I just stopped whatever I was doing and just went straight into real estate. Got my real estate license and started working on the side of selling investment properties. When I was selling investment properties, one of my investors, he put me down, he sat me down, and he was like, hey, I'm liking the fact that you're selling me properties, but what do you think about actually buying properties for me? And I thought about it. I was like, well, maybe, right? He's like, well, I'll pay you more than what you're getting paid right now. I was like, I think I'm done thinking about it. Right? So I went to go work for him. Worked for him for a while. And one of the people I was actually buying properties from is one of the partners at Elevate right now. So I already had a previous business relationship with one of the partners at Elevate before actually joining. So I joined with Elevate, and within the first 30 days, got 400 units under LOI, and never looked back.
And ultimately, I think this is something that's not talked about enough, and I've had my own experiences around bigger players, and but there is a not attitude's not the right word, but there is a movement, right? And that you can have regardless of your level of experience when you're around guys like that where they take notice, right? And it's a little less more about talking about what you're doing. It's more just about executing on what you're doing. And I think there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of young guys I meet. Well, I don't know how I'm going to add value to this guy and everything like that. And I don't think that's the case because these people saw something in you, and obviously it's led to you to where you were today.
Completely agree. You never know who's watching, so make sure you're putting on a good show.
No, and ultimately, like they're probably watching and probably not saying anything.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think it's something that's super important because, you know, if you go out and you execute on what you're doing, you know, either they're going to hear it from somebody else. Like, here's the thing about the real truth about real estate. If you start banging the drum loud enough and you start making some noise, everybody finds out.
100%. 100%.
And so when you've done the wholesaling, you've done the acquisition, and then now you raise money. When you say you put 400 units under LOI, did you find the deal for them?
Correct.
Okay. So this is where I want to stick for a minute because this is a huge thing that everybody asks about. You know, there's a lot of people in multifamily right now. I mean, it feels like the whole world buys multifamily, or maybe that's just my world. I haven't decided yet. But how do you find a 400 unit property, right? And more importantly, how did you even know it was a deal, right? I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, two really, really good questions. So the way I found these properties back when LoopNet was still LoopNet and not owned by CoStar, which was about maybe about 2 years ago. So I guess to back up a little bit more before that, my first taste of multifamily I was actually when I was 19, and one of the wholesalers that I was working with, he told me that it was possible to wholesale apartment buildings. And I was like, whoa, like that's awesome. Like, how do you do that? Whoa, like that's awesome. And, you know, things were kind of up in the air with the whole mentoring thing. But there's another guy that I guess mentored him that I found that spoke about, he was on YouTube, we talked about different things, and he was like, okay, like, you know, if you guys send me $50, I'm going to send you like a really good way to find like apartment deals or something like that. And I was like, it's $50, you know, why not? So he like sends me over the information, and I go on a website called Go Section 8. And this is where apartment owners list their properties for Section 8. So what I did is I just called all of the people on there and asked them if they wanted to sell their apartment complex. And there's a couple of people that were like, yeah, I'm interested. So we almost got a deal under contract, but I learned, a valuable lesson, make sure you actually get it under contract, when make sure you actually get it under contract. If you're working on a deal and they give you verbals and you don't work off of verbals, make sure you actually get it under contract. And because we didn't get it under contract, and we had a buyer in place, we had a buyer that was interested, but we didn't get it under contract because we missed out on over $100,000 in wholesale fee. Mm-hmm. But fast forward, that same mentor, I bought one of his packages or something. He talked about just going on LoopNet and calling all the brokers on LoopNet and understanding that whatever they're posting on LoopNet, it's not a deal because it's on LoopNet, so it's not a deal. So you call the brokers and you ask them what they have off market. And I called multiple brokers and they sent me the different deals they had. And I had the underwriting model that I got from Elevate, and I underwrote all of the deals. And the ones that made sense, the one that passed our underwriting model, was the one that I presented to the team. And once we presented to the team, we drafted the LOI, sent the LOI. LOI got accepted. And then we went to visit the properties. Everything went well, sent the PSA and went from there.
And it's interesting because, there's a lot of people that can do a lot of things. There's a lot of people that can swing a hammer. There's a lot of people that can bring the money, right? Because they have the money or they have institutional money. And, my mentors always told me, like, if you have problems in your business or you have problems in life, like, just go sell. Like, sales and acquisition, like, and I think enough people, I think my bigger issue, tell me if you ever deal with this when you're meeting younger people. There's a lot of people that tell me a lot of stories about a deal or a possible scenario, and yet they don't have the deal under contract.
100%.
Because ultimately it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything. It's not even a deal. If it's not it's not even a deal. You don't have anything to talk about.
And then you play 10 scenarios over in your mind when we're not even dealing with facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so ultimately, like, a deal's a deal when a deal's closed up, right? And so, there's a lot of people that maybe bought like 3 or 4 houses or flipped a bunch of homes or want to get into apartment complexes. Talk about if you could just go back to that place and you could describe the feeling to take down a 400 unit. I mean, it had to be a euphoric moment.
Well, yeah, it was. Well, I mean, so it's technically 2 different apartment complexes.
Sure.
I'm gonna know why. So that added up to over 400 units. But yeah, I mean, and honestly, the best way that I've noticed from my personality and just talking with you, Austin, just knowing, understanding myself and in business and in situations, how I know I could go for exactly what I want. I have to burn the ships. That's the only way for me to do it. So before I jumped into multifamily, I was in the single family game, and I was actually planning on starting my own. I was actually planning on starting wholesaling single family properties, but I knew that I wanted to do multifamily, and I was like, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do multifamily. That's all I'm going to do. So I burnt the ships and focused just on multifamily, and that's when that's when I started. I even tried to hire a mentor on the multifamily side of which, and it didn't work out, but I still kept on. And the funny thing is, when I joined with Elevate, the mentor that I tried to hire actually was trying to wholesale Elevate a deal. So yeah, it's funny how that works.
It always comes full circle.
Always comes full circle, but I think the best thing to do, and from my experience, is to burn the boats. That's the best way to achieve your goal.
And what do you think about your personality or other people's personalities when they get in a not a rut, right? I think everything's a stepping stone. That's what I know for sure. But I also know that I'm smart enough to look at the big scope of a situation, like meaning like single family investing for me. Like, I want to build single family investing. I don't want to go buy existing because I don't want to buy a deal that 20 other people bought. It's just not my thing. I want to control the process, right? And so what do you think and that's not a bad thing. It's just that you can see the writing on the wall and you're like, okay, this is cute, but like, how do we go bigger, right? And I think, but it's very important for me to get across also. That doesn't mean that fits everybody's personality either.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And so ultimately, that about yourself is that you kind of have to like throw yourself up against the wall, and you have to, because ultimately, like, you're the type of guy I would imagine that, like, if it's not a challenge, it's not worth doing.
Yeah. It's funny. I wouldn't really think about it. I usually don't really think about it like that. Like, if it's not a challenge, it's not worth doing. But really, if it's not big, it's not worth doing. That's kind of how I look at it. If it's not big, then why do it? Why do something small? To me, it just doesn't register in my head. If everyone has the same amount of time, everyone has the same 24 hours, why go for something smaller? Why not go bigger? That's how I look at it.
And where do you think, because I know a little bit about your family, where do you think that mentality comes from? Because I don't think it's the way you were raised. So, where was that cultivated, or where did you grab that mentality?
I do think it was a little bit some of how I was kind of raised, just like with the mentality of like the people that culturally. So my parents are originally from Nigeria, and they're part of what's called the Igbo tribe, and they're known for being more industrious and determined and different things like that. Um, so I would say that as far as like the determination to do something big, there's that. But at the same time, like my dad, his mom and his dad were illiterate. They couldn't read or write. And that's why when I think about it, I'm like, when someone who has illiterate parents found a way to come to the United States, like that's way harder than raising $1 billion or something. I kind of look at it like that, like wow, like that's way harder than raising $1 billion, because that's the kind of like mental hoops you have to go through to think of that way and just like focus on what you want. And I don't know, just so there's that, and then I think about I'll read different books. A lot of people don't like Donald Trump, but business, like if you look at some of his books, like Business Wise, just the way he thinks as far as like in business, like mentality wise, how he talks about going big. That's something that really hit home for me when I read one of his books. And yeah, and just going for what you really want, just being honest with yourself. Like, what do you really want? Just going for what you really want. That's really just everything in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard, right? Because it's interesting. I meet these 18, 19, 20, 25-year-old kids, and like I try to think back to myself, like what I was doing. And I was bartending, I was making some good money, but nothing crazy. And it's just such a different world we live in now, because a kid getting out of high school now, going into college or in college, they look at a $50,000 salary and they think it's dog shit. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just as simple as that, right? And
True.
there's a lot of people that spent their whole life trying to get to that, right? And so there is a lot of the shiny object syndrome / just that push for more. And I find people have to be careful that their goals are their goals, especially when you're raising money. We've talked about this because it's an interesting game, right?
Yeah.
Like the psychology behind raising money is that I would imagine, and I haven't been in a room like that. I've raised money once, very quickly, surprisingly. But there almost has to be a internal confidence on the deal. So, because I mean, I would imagine that people see you slipping, they're not investing.
I think it depends. Well, I think it depends too on the other person, where they're at. Nowadays there's a lot of, and it depends on the psychology too. Kind of like what you were saying. I think posture. I think posture is the biggest. If you present yourself in such a way to where this is just something you do every single day, they'll just think, oh, like this guy is an expert. And this guy knows what he's talking about. And when there's this book that I was reading called, it was by, what was the Pitch Anything. I can't remember the author right now, but Pitch Anything. It's a really, really good book. And he talks about the psychology of the buyer, and I mean not the buyer, but psychology of the person that you're raising money from. And it's extremely important. It's extremely important to look to be professional, and also to understand basic human nature when it comes to people wanting something that nobody else can have. Want different things like that, and creating that kind of, and it's the same thing. It's the same thing at the highest level. When you take the deal off the table and people want the deal even more, it's the same thing at the highest level. Like human nature doesn't change. It doesn't matter how many zeros are at the end of the check.
Because ultimately, like, I'll give away my $1 million idea because people won't execute on it, so I don't even care. But I want to. This is later on in life because I don't have a death wish right now. But I want to create a restaurant that has no menus and there's no marketing. like no marketing. And the reason I want to is because I spent my entire life waiting on rich people, like really rich people, and they want exclusivity.
They do.
And I think the number one problem with wholesalers that drive me crazy is you're blasting out the damn property to 50 fucking people
100%.
instead of understanding. Okay, perfect example. You know what somebody says to me all the time? All the time. Hey man, what deal are you buying? You know my response? Everything. And he goes, I don't understand. Everything. And he goes, I don't get it, because I've cultivated a relationship with my mentors and I have found out what everybody buys. I have a buyer who buys mobile home parks. I have a guy who buys hotels. I have a guy who buys multifamily. So I don't need to go out and seek 20, 30 people. I know the guy.
Yeah.
And it makes it feel a little bit more like I'm the buffer. Like, you know, what we used to call, so I was the road manager for a music band. You know what the lead singer called me? I was the shit buffer. I stopped all the shit from him having to deal with it. And it's the truth. If you're the go-between, but like, perfect example, when I used to work at the restaurant, and I've been told a lot of people this, but I memorized, so there's 45 people at the restaurant. I memorized what everybody did every day. Like I memorized if they went to church. I knew if they had like band practice, like Thursday night. And the reason is if I wanted to ask for time off and I needed that certain day, I would only go to 2 people because I didn't waste my energy asking 30 people. I asked 2 people because I knew they had the day off. And I think one of the podcasts I'm about to do is how you present your property to said investor. Like if they feel like they can pick it up, especially people that buy off market deals, if they can pick it up from anybody,
they'll take it.
What's the point?
Yeah, there's no scarcity.
And in this world that we live in, where everything's can be done by a snap of a button. You need to listen to this episode. I don't know why I haven't sent you this yet. So he's speaking this Wednesday in my private group, so you need to show up. But his name is David Cohen. He's kind of a ghost in the multifamily space. He's an off-market broker. That's what he does. He's an off-market broker. His first deal as a registered agent was $60 million. And he did a deal last year for $132 million. And you want to know how he got those deals? Cold call, email. But you got to understand the tactic behind it. So I'll give you the quick story. The property was based on the like literally the line of Burbank, California. So LA's rent controlled, Burbank isn't. So he found the guy's email and he said, I'll give you 19 million for that property because it's rent controlled. He goes, I'll give you 19 million for that property right now. And the guy says, yeah, you're cute, son. He goes, get your geography straight. He goes, that property's 69 million. I'm in Burbank. He goes, great. I'll give you 69 million. He got a price out of him. So he went to an institutional guy, cold call institutional guy, said, this guy wants to sell this property for 69 million. Here's the deal. What do you think? We'll buy it for 59 million. He's like, holy shit. he's like, it's happening. Yeah. And so the guy takes it to his board and the buyer disappears. So he's like, shit. So he had to cold call another institution. He got him up to 60, or so they were at 50. He got them up to 60 million. And then the guy gave it to his board, came back 2 weeks later and said, you got a deal. LOI.
You said the buyer disappeared or the seller?
The buyer disappeared. He found another buyer.
Wow.
And they bought it for 60 million. But all that first email was supposed to do was to get a price out of him. That's all he wanted. And he got him talking. And what he did, this is the most important thing he ever did, because dude, he's a young kid. He 60 million. He's never dealt with anything like this. He got the buyer and the seller to agree to talk to each other through email. So he just introduced him and got out of the way. He made $600K off that first deal.
That's awesome.
But what the whole purpose of that story is that nothing's impossible, but more importantly, it's about getting them talking. You have to get them you know what I'm saying? I read this book. He was on Bigger Pockets. This guy named Steve Sims. He's a really interesting cat. Runs like a concierge service for like really rich people. Like, hey, you want to hang out with Elton John? I'll make it happen. But he said what he does is he purposely misspells things when he's writing shit to his clients and stuff, so they see that he wrote it himself, and he's just giving that little bit of humanity in it.
Wow.
And so he's just saying, like, there's so much copy in this world. There's so much of the all the same that you have to stick out. Well, in order to do that, sometimes you have to make a mistake. It's an interesting concept. I just do that because I can't spell. But either way, it's all relative. But but and it's funny because I look at your business, right, from a context point of raising money, is that ultimately the reason that people come to you to raise money is that you have spent your time cultivating relationships that can allow you to get the job done quicker, right? And so, what are you, to all those young kids out there that ask me all the time, how do you have these relationships? How do you meet these people? What are you doing on a daily day, a week in, week out basis to meet these people, to build up your network?
At the beginning, actually before COVID too, but still I can talk about what I do during COVID. But at the beginning, what I did is I went to every single multifamily meetup, every single one. And I talked to as many people as possible. And there's always someone who I would call, maybe that there would be like an event manager, somebody that knows everybody in the room. That's your key. That's your guide. You go up to them and you ask them, who should you talk to?
Dude, you just blew me away. Even I didn't think about that. That's
so I learned that from, I read the book Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, and this guy's a master networker.
Okay.
Master networker. And I even do this when I go to cigar lounges where rich people hang out. I'll ask one of the bartenders, like, hey, I'm looking to raise money, or I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z. Who should I talk to up here? And she'll point, like, hey, that guy over there, he's a real estate developer, he's a multimillionaire, you should go talk to that guy over there.
I love that. I mean, because what you're doing, right, is I think especially at meetups, this is a very important part. I think people have a lot of needless conversations.
100%. And another thing with business cards are perfect for ending conversations. So you give them, you say, hey, here's my business card, end the conversation, go talk to someone else. Mm-hmm. Perfect for ending, the very, very pleasant, friendly way to end a conversation.
I have a friend who's a cannabis CEO, and he said that he gave me this tip about a year and a half ago when I started the podcast. He says when he goes to a conference, he's already earmarked the 5 people that he's going to meet.
100%.
Intentional about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So another thing is, I went to an IMN conference in New York. I believe it was maybe 6 months ago, and actually probably more than 6 months ago. Before the meeting started, we have a list of all the people who were going to the meeting, and they had ways to search what everybody did. I set up maybe 5 or 6 meetings at the IMN conference, and really these conferences aren't to learn anything; they're to meet people. Set maybe 5 or 6 meetings, and I wasn't the only one that did that. A lot of people did the same thing as well, but still 5 or 6 meetings before even going into the conference. Confirmed meetings. Got on the phone. The first guy that I talked to was, had billions of dollars. It was some family office, billions of dollars, and talked about different deals. I mean, I really think that people just overcomplicate things. I think that people say things are I think that people make things complicated and then complain that it's complicated. I think things are really, really simple when it comes to getting what you want to get done.
Well, I call it intentional networking.
Yeah.
I mean, like, seriously, it's like straight up, like, guys, we've gotten so serious that we have an Airtable spreadsheet where we like write down their name and like what they would like and stuff like that. And, Grant Cardone said the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life, and changed the way I look at everything. He said, a lot of y'all are coming to 10X conference and you're worried about paying for the VIP seats. He goes, you think the conference is about who's on stage. He goes, it's about the people that are sitting next to you.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay. So it's not about, so the event matters. And the thing is like, I went to best conference ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I met Tyler Chester there, and he talked me into doing the podcast, which I've already been thinking about. And I thought to myself, like, that one meeting, regardless of how much money, look what it's done for me, right? And so that's what you don't know. And like, I went to Denver 3 weeks ago, got a coaching client from that. Like but here's the most important part, and this is what people don't understand, is that you have to be open to it.
Yeah.
You have to tell yourself that something's good is going to happen. You have to walk with intention. And I'm reading a book right now. I just finished and just working out because it's a short one. It's called Rework, and these guys run base camp. And he's like, fucking meetings are useless. He's like, stop doing them. He's like, you're breaking people's concentration for BS that can be put or summarized in an email. And you're 100% right. We have overcomplicated everything because we think that simplicity doesn't make sense to us because it feels too easy.
Yeah.
And we have a new rule in my company. This is a very hard and fast rule. It's very complex, guys. Super, super complex. If it's easy to you, you do that task. That's it.
Yeah.
I was walking on a beach in Florida and I go, that's the key to life.
100%.
Because what's interesting, right, is we, meaning us, myself included, discount things that are easy to us, but it's our gift.
100%.
And like our gift, mine and yours gift, is talking to people and getting money out of their pockets for deals. Okay, great. Then why would we go do other things?
Well, we can double down and become absolute masters at our craft, and whatever we were thinking about doing, whether it's buying cars or whatever, and we think that we're going to make more money doing that, we'll make 10 times the amount of money doing our actual gift. Because
ultimately, the actual purpose, right? And it's, what's interesting, and I think you'll get a lot out of this. And my buddy runs like $5 billion for UT. They manage 50 billion. It's a weird world. They're high stakes, stress, pretty crazy. But I was telling him, like, I'm getting everything done that I want to. Like, I'm not doing things. I'm knocking out 75 hard. I'm reading books. But there's a lot of wasted motions in the next book I'm going to read or the next workout I'm going to do. So what we've decided to do this week is I've scheduled out every book that I'm going to listen to for the rest of the year, next year.
Nice.
And also the books I'm going to read. And that way, and the workouts I'm going to do, like, and the diets I'm going to do, because I think there's this new thing I'm on right now, and it's like my fucking soapbox, is that with technology, we have entered in a new world of decision fatigue. You go to Starbucks and they want to offer you 7 fucking milks. And you're like, what? Just give me the fucking coffee. I've already made 9 decisions today. Dude, after I've had 9 coaching calls, I don't want to decide what we're watching for TV. I don't want to decide what book I'm reading, but if it's there, and half the time what we do in life is we put obstacles in our way to not give us the easiest path to do it. If you want to get up, what's that?
It takes energy to make those decisions.
That's why Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs wear the same fucking shirt every time.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying is, if you want to get up and work out in the morning, I got a little secret for you. Have your fucking clothes out. Yeah. Don't have to go hunt them down. My clothes are sitting right by my shoes every morning.
Yeah.
And my book that I'm reading is right here. And my keys are right there. Because every time that you're wasting, they found out, and I love to study the brain and the body and everything. Do you know the number one thing per day that we, like, the energy waste is digesting our food? So that's why Jesse Itzler eats fruit till noon, because he wants to have the most energy for his meetings in the morning.
Wow.
And like, these are the things that people don't think about. Like,
I'm gonna write that down.
No, I mean, it's the truth. I mean, because look, here's the perfect example. This will blow your freaking mind out of your body. This is what I heard the book I just finished. I think if everybody went into the day and they acted like they had a jar, and in the jar was their energy, and they could only pull it out and take the energy out, I think they would use their energy a lot more
100%
conservatively.
100%.
Because here's what happens. Like, I'm going to go with the trickle-down effect. You have no energy. You haven't planned out your day. What do? You stop and get fast food. What do? You turn on Netflix because it's the easier route.
You go on Instagram, Facebook.
Go on Instagram. It's the easier route because you don't have the energy to fight that decision.
Plus, you have the dopamine. You get the dopamine.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, right? That's why I love to have my meetings in the morning.
Yeah.
Because about 4 o'clock, baby, I go off a cliff. Like I'm done.
I'm the exact same way. If I could just make a way to not work after 4, that'd be perfect. I mean, I can still do networking and all that, but just regular work.
No, the tough decisions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the tough decisions, because like I was really thinking about it the other day. Like I was looking at pictures of myself. Like I'm 38, be 39 next year. Like I feel younger. And I'm not 100% where I want to be, but like we go in society. We push. And you have to think that half the time that we're making decisions is because we don't have the energy to fight the other decision.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's like meaning that, but that's in life in general, meaning like, okay, perfect example. I'm just going to be with this person.
Yeah.
Because she calls or they cause or he causes the least amount of restriction in my life. But I mean, do they ultimately push you?
But not just that. There's that, and there's fear. There's fear too.
And what is that fear?
Fear of the unknown. Fear of, I have the potential to do better, but or I know I can do better, but this is something good right now. And then you maybe have some friends that are kind of mediocre too, like, hey, you should just do this, you should just do that, give some bad advice, that sort of thing. I think it's fear, I think, and I'm reading a book right now. It's called what's the book called? It's called Leading with Intimidation. And I know it sounds like a kind of negative title or something like that, but it's actually not what the book is about. It talks about how the main hindrance to people's success is being intimidated by other things. And it talks about how you can posture yourself to not get intimidated by other things and be able to go towards success.
I love that, because ultimately, like, it's interesting, right? You're we talk a lot about mindset. We talk about like lifestyle and everything. Like and tell me if this makes any sense to you, because I have a feeling this is going to hit you right square in the nose. My biggest issue up until like a year ago was I was 9 miles wide and 2 centimeters deep. And right now I'm trying to go 1 foot wide and 9 miles straight down.
Wow.
I think it's the number one thing. I think we learn and we know what we're good at.
Yeah.
And so we see it as easy and we walk away from it. And yet we haven't maxed. Like, perfect example, every time I meet an agent, every time I meet a real estate agent, well, I want to do this investment and I want to do that investment. And I'm like, that's great. But have you maxed out who you can be as an agent? Because ultimately that's your revenue.
Yeah.
I don't think you have. I don't think we have anything. I don't think we have. Michael Jordan, like, he was still doing the shots every day. Kobe Bryant's still getting in the gym every day because they were searching for that little percent. Right.
And I agree. Sometimes, like, I feel like I get so much, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but I feel like I get so much opportunity that I don't execute because I just get so much opportunity.
Well, ultimately, like, think of it this way: the universe is putting a buffet in front of you to see if you have the strength to walk away from it.
Wow. That is good. That is good. Wow. That is good.
I mean, it's the truth, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, dude. I mean, ultimately, like, think of it this way. Look, if I mean this, and it's not me being a dickhead, it's just the network I cultivated. If I wanted to turn on the faucet right now, I could have 30 Airbnbs I manage like tomorrow. I don't want it.
Exactly.
Do you understand how hard it is to walk away from like something you can, but it doesn't fit my lifestyle?
Yeah.
And too many people are going out and jumping on wholesaling or jumping on Airbnb because they see the
Exactly.
numbers instead of looking at their lifestyle and cultivating an investment strategy that works for them. This is what
Right.
this entire fucking podcast is about.
You're right. Yeah,
If you make 350K a year and you work 40 hours a week, then go invest in a multifamily asset and don't fucking buy single family residence. I don't understand. How hard is this?
doesn't make any sense to me.
You have a great job that pays you for your insurance and your life that you have. But we want to go out and do this other thing. And maybe it's not what you're good at.
I think people just I think it's like I think I call it the Kylie Jenner effect, or I name it the Kylie, or I just came up with that just now.
It's perfect. No, I'm intrigued. Yes.
Yeah. you see somebody famous doing something like that, and they're making a lot of money, and that's just on the outside. That's just what it looks like, and no one really knows what's going on behind closed doors.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like let's say you have a wholesaler friend, and their business made like $2 million in revenue last year, and you're making 350K, and you're like, well, I should be making $2 million right now. I'm going to go and do what they're doing when you should not be doing what they're doing.
So do you know who Chris Grinzik is from Toro Capital? Chris Grinzik. Do you know who that is? So a big multifamily guy, kind of does the same thing you do, just went off on his own. We were on a big call, and he said something to me that, dude, the 4 investors were on the call go, oh shit. Like, he said, I'm dead serious. He goes, tell me why I would buy a property in Texas. Because he only focuses on Florida and Jacksonville. They bought like $450 million worth of multifamily in 5 years there. Wow. He goes, tell me why I would buy property in Texas. He goes, does anybody understand the amount of energy in the 2 years that it would take for me to learn the market and the metrics the way that Austin can just go, no, that doesn't work. That works. That don't. He goes, because you lived there your whole life. And all of us go, oh, shit. We're trying to do something because we think it's the hot thing to do. Like, I have a buddy right here in Texas. Dude, he's been beaten up Round Rock, Texas for 10 years. He's sold the same houses like 5 or 6 times. Dude, I got a buddy in Nashville, a developer and multifamily guy, only works in a 10-mile radius. That's it. And he's the guy.
Yeah.
But yet we go and we take our energy and our focus off this thing that we know so well to do what? When you haven't maximized out the ability of who you are and what you can do in that set area. But ultimately, like, I think this is the key, though, and this is super important. It's my new thing I'm on. I'm just going to say it now for the first time. I'm going to say it just now for the first time, and I just hit me, and it's my thing. Especially real estate investors. We hang out with too much of our own kind.
Wow.
Because hear me out, a marketing guy, a healthcare guy, a doctor can show us parts of our business that we can't see because all the people we're hanging out with think the same way we do.
No, I agree.
That's my new thing, man. Like, that you can't. I guarantee you going into your dentist office, she can show you a thing or two about service, about how you cultivate a visit that somebody, and it's known because my dad was one for 40 years, that dentistry, going to the dentist is like the most agonizing thing for people. Yet their whole business is to calm you down and make you feel comfortable. It's the same way when you're raising $20 million. That's a big check to write, but you can calm them down, make them feel better. Because your belief in the deal is so rooted, right? Super important. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because dude, is it just me? I'm dead serious. I have to ask the question. Do you feel like everybody and their mother buys real estate?
Right now, well, either buys it or wants to do it. Everybody.
I feel like it's the thing. Yeah.
Either they buy it or they're planning on buying it.
But I don't think that really is the thing. I think that's our world. And here's the deal. And I was just talking to a client this way. I want to ask you a serious question, and I want you to be 100% honest. What do you feel like you're the most creative that you've been lately? Like, do you feel creative? Like, you've thought of ideas, new ideas for business? Like, have you thought, if you were really being honest with yourself?
Most creative, like in general.
Like, do you feel creative right now? Like you're thinking of new business ideas, or like things are popping up in your head, or do you feel like you're doing?
I feel I'm more in the execution mode that I have, for me, I feel like I need to pin it down. I need to, like, I'm running after it. I need to, grab it and pin it down,
Yeah. No, but I think we go through seasons, right? I think we go through seasons, and I think ultimately we have to find what season we're in.
Yeah, 100%.
Identify it, and then lock in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's funny you say that. One of my really, really close friends, the one that actually gave me the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, I was actually speaking with them last week, and we were talking about just different things, with the coronavirus, what's going on with both of us and all that. And he was talking about how the year prior he was in one season, and that was really when he had to like lock down and really just figure things out. Now he's in another season, and now I'm entering into that same season that he was in. For me, it's time to really lock down and just like restructure things. That's the season I'm in right now. Mm-hmm. So it's really interesting that you just mentioned that.
No, it is. I think it's super important. There's months where I lay off the pedal a little bit. Mm-hmm. I sleep a little bit more. Yeah. I read a little bit more. Maybe my workouts aren't as strong. And then there's times where I'm just like full on savage mode, right? Like, it's just, you have to understand that about yourself. We only have a certain amount of energy. We only have a certain amount of time in the day. But that takes so much mental fortitude and internal strength to just kind of sit there, right?
It does.
It's scary.
Yeah. And especially when you're around people that aren't in the same season, you're kind of like, oh, I wish I was in that season right now. But it's like, nope, you're not.
Mm-hmm. And because we're forcing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love this conversation. We could go on for 9 years. But if people want to find out about you, what you do, what y'all's company does, how do they find you?
Yeah, great way to find me. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram. Facebook or LinkedIn. You could just look up John Okocha, and my name is right here, John Okocha, right there. The best way to find me would be on Instagram, which is at Johnny Equity. That's JohnnyEquity. That's the best way to reach me through Messenger. And also, if you mention this podcast and send me an email, which I'll tell you my email now, I will send you over our due diligence checklist. So my email is John, JOHN, at Elevate, ELEVATECIG.com. If you send me an email, I'll go ahead and send you our due diligence checklist, and just mention this podcast.
Well, dude, I really appreciate it, my man. Thank you so much for coming on here. Guys, if you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends and share it with whoever you think would get some value from this. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.